friends, I am really excited to have Mike and Carol Grubbs in the studio today. The Grubbs have been friends for a long time. And one thing has been consistent. These people are all in with their love for Jesus and their love for people. They lead a ministry that I believe can be very, very helpful for you personally, or if you're in a leadership position, whether in a business, a church, a neighborhood, or whatever, could be a big help there too. And this ministry is called InStep. InStep is a training process that equips people to provide effective spiritual and emotional care to people that are in their orbit who are struggling. So I just invite you to consider this. You imagine every small group in your church having someone in there that's equipped to provide this type of just frontline care. Can you imagine having a small army of people in your business or your neighborhood that help people deal with emotional, relational, or spiritual issues before they require the need for professional counseling? That is what InStep provides. And InStep is one of our strategic partners in the Fully Alive community. Mike and Carol and this ministry are just such an amazing value add to this Fully Alive community. And I can't wait for you to meet them. So I'm talking a lot. I'm done. Mike, why don't you start by sharing a little bit about you? Just let people who is this person that's providing this family, hobbies, season of life? And then Carol, if you don't mind doing the same.
Well, I got a boy and a girl. They're in their 40s now. And I love golf and I love kayak fishing with my wife. I'm in the season of life now where I'm on the downward side of the big hill, and 73, and my wife of 50 years is a little younger. And
you are a smart man.
That's about all.
Well played, sir.
Well, as Mike said, we recently celebrated over 50 years of marriage. We were high school sweethearts. And so it has been a long but great ride, I would say for sure. So we do have 2 children, adult children, as you mentioned, and 2 grandkids. And I am a retired school teacher. Took my teaching hat off back in 2021. So everyone's, yeah, it was a challenging time. But I put my teacher hat on about once a week and go and help the grandkids with their schooling because they're both being homeschooled. My dog takes me for multiple walks every day in our neighborhood. I would echo what Mike said about kayaking. I love being outdoors. I love the kayaking. It's very restful and peaceful. I love hiking. And if I'm not doing that, I'm kind of helping Mike with some administrative stuff for his business.
He manages me.
We know. Oh, yeah, sorry. This is for the listeners. Yeah.
So, and if I'm not doing stuff with his business and book writing, then I'm probably reading with a good cup of coffee.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so grateful that you're on this call and that InStep is a part of the Fully Alive effort. And one of the things I'll say right from the outset is that people really can't help other people if there's just real brokenness in their life. So I kind of see discipleship, like healing is a major discipleship step for 100% of the people. But for a good number of people, it's a step that has to happen prior. Better get that in case it's God. I mean, if he wants us to add something to this.
Not God.
Not God.
And I will turn off that darn
We're going to leave this in here because that's just fun. That's just fun. I love it. Probably somebody asking for some help. But that's what I was saying, for some folks, the hurts are just too acute or too chronic for them to provide effective help. And probably the most damaging thing helpers can do is to try to help without the healing. And so this is such a critical component of this Fully Alive community as a whole. So Mike, let's start to describe it. I gave my intro to InStep. It was you approved it, but like what needs to be corrected or added, and in order for our audience to get a clear picture of what you're providing, and then as a follow up, what is your background that really provides you with the credibility and the authority to provide these resources, services?
I'll be glad to do that, Brian, my friend. InStep, if you were going to subtitle it, would be how to walk with others through difficulties. And it's a preparation. You're preparing yourself to do that work. I would like to try to describe something. If you drew a line across the middle of a piece of paper and you labeled it on the top of the line, you labeled healthy, and on the bottom of the line you labeled it less than healthy, right? And underneath the line in the less than healthy place, you wrote down some things: broken, traumatized, abused, relationally challenged, relationally damaged, addicted, mentally ill, emotionally dysregulated, etc. The people below the line cannot, it's very difficult if they could, but I don't believe they can, go through normal, regular discipleship the way that the church and others like yourself have designed it. They can't do it because when you're in pain, when you're hungry, when you're thirsty, you can't think of anything but that.
Right.
So InStep comes along to train people how to help them get up to that line where the healthy is. And then the church and Fully Alive and other organizations can begin to disciple them beyond that with their way of doing it, because they're mentally clear, they're emotionally stable, they have overcome or are able to deal with some of the things that are holding them back. And so InStep is designed to walk with people, teach regular people, normal people, how to do this in a way that does not require professional help. These statistics are a little bit old, so I can't say that they're accurate today. But a while back, I did a study, and 3% of Americans at some point in their life will need institutional care or psychiatric care. That's psychiatry, right? 30% of people at some point in their life will need some form of professional therapy. That leaves 67% of people that need somebody to walk through their life when they're in difficulty, when they're hurting, when they're struggling. And that's what InStep is to do, is to train people how to help those people to do that.
Got it. So just for clarity, InStep is not a ministry for people to come and try to get back above the line. InStep is a training process to help those that are at or above the line, help the people in their orbit that are below the line get back to the line.
Exactly.
Very, very cool. So give us real quick, what's your background? What gives you the credibility to provide this? Like, what's the story to get to this point?
Well, about 40 years ago, I was pastoring, and I had a couple of people in the church that were struggling with mental issues and emotional issues, relational issues, and I wasn't prepared by seminary to help them. And so I went and got a master's degree, and from then on, the bulk of my ministry days, my pastoral ministry days, pulpit ministry days, was mostly spent in counseling people who were hurting. And finally, God, about 25 years ago, released me from that ministry, and I started my private practice in Charlotte, North Carolina. And
Gotcha.
And I've been doing that ever since. I'm also a full professor at Central Baptist Theological Seminary. I teach counseling there. I was able to get, with my wife's help, I was able to get a PhD from Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in clinical and faith-based counseling.
Excellent. Okay. So I just wanted people to know that this wasn't just some type of made up thing or whatever without that educational support. So a master's of divinity to become a pastor, a master's in counseling to get the counseling practice moving, and then the PhD in order to provide, all this structure. So powerful, powerful. Carol, what's Mike leaving out as far as what InStep is? And then also let us know, we already know you manage Mike's life. What in particular, and particularly in how it relates to how people might engage with Fully Alive? What's your role in InStep, and what are we missing in not communicating so?
Well, first off, he did not mention that he is a perpetual student. It took him a lot of years to get through his doctorate, but it was a great celebration when he did. So, and the other thing I would add about Mike is that you don't have to have much of a conversation with him. Maybe, I'd say within the first 15, 30 minutes, Jesus is going to come up in that conversation. He's going to bring it up, and he's going to introduce that, that person to Jesus in one way or another. Sometimes it's been very unique ways. So that's just the way he rolls. Jesus is going to be brought into that conversation.
Indeed.
So as far as my role with InStep Ministry, it's basically assist with the administration of it, people when they sign up, when they have questions about it through the Fully Alive app. It's to answer those questions and, connect them with the information that's provided there so they know what there is available. And then follow up afterwards. The idea is that once someone has attended InStep, the training, that they can have access to, follow up with questions and so forth, of course, maintaining confidentiality through all of that. So it's more of an administrative, connecting with people and getting them the information they need to be able to join in.
I love it. I love it. So they'll, so we don't have Mike working the app. Is that what you're telling me? Like when people talk, yeah, Mike's not a tech person is is what I'm poking at.
Well, in Genesis, God said that I should be a helper. So this is the way I help.
Well, I tell you what, you're a fantastic one of those, and you guys are an awesome team. But just so folks know that when you go into the Fully Alive space,
yes,
which we're going to provide links and everything for that in the show notes. When you go into that space, Carol will be the one you're interfacing with, and Mike will be the one facilitating a lot of the training, et cetera. We'll get more into those details. Before we get into the actual, how do people connect with it, let's talk about the foundation, the theological, and the the behind the scenes framework for how this actually works. And Mike, InStep follows a unique approach to the spiritual and emotional care we're talking about, which actually shares a strong theological tie to the whole Fully Alive way, so to speak. Can you unpack that approach and let people know about the books that you've written that can help them better understand this approach, particularly as it relates to the kind of care we're talking about?
Yeah, I would love to do that. The premise of therapy that I work out of in my private practice and I teach is that all problems, difficulties, disorders, illnesses, all of it comes from Genesis in the first couple of chapters, where we see that God gave Adam purpose. He was supposed to govern over all of creation, basically, birds of the air, fish of the sea, crawling things, cattle, right? All of that. And he was supposed to tend the garden. He had purpose. And then he saw that Adam was alone, so he made Eve. After creation was closed, he made Eve from Adam's side. And and he had already a vertical relationship, because that's how God communicated that his purpose. But when he created Eve, he created a horizontal relationship. So you have relationship and purpose. Right after the fall, we see that Adam and Eve saw that they were naked. They had destroyed their horizontal relationship. They'd broken it. And then they hide from God, which breaks the vertical relationship. And so now this opens up a bottomless pit in the soul of every human being for relationship. Then a little bit later in chapter 3 of Genesis, you see that he takes the garden away, and nature turns against them. And so their purpose is broken. And now they have a bottomless pit in their soul of purpose. Now, these two bottomless pits, a relationship and purpose, what they do is crave to be filled. They are insatiable. They want to be filled. They're constantly calling out to be filled. It's like when you don't eat food for 5 or 6 days, and your body is just screaming for food, and that's all you can think about, right? Or water. If you're working out in a day and you don't have any water, and your body, that's all it wants. Well, these two bottomless pits are like that. They're calling for filling. So what we do as human beings, apart from God, is we will use every kind of wrong strategy to try to fill up these bottomless pits. We call them wrong strategies because some people get offended by sin, but it's what it is sin. We use sinful activities, sinful thoughts, sinful things to try to fill up our bottomless pits. And we keep trying to do this, and we do it over and over and over again, and we get stuck in it. And when we get stuck in using these things, sometimes we become habituated, sometimes we become addicted to the usage of these strategies to fill up our bottomless pits. Okay. Now, when you get into Jeremiah 2:13, I'm sure that anybody in Fully Alive understands that verse. It says, "My people have committed 2 sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water." Now that spring is crystal clear, perfect, vital, clean, wonderful, life-giving water. And
making me thirsty, so
we can drink from that. It's free to us. But we don't drink from that because we don't think that's going to fill up our bottomless pits. So what we do is we go over to the cistern, which is a huge bucket, right? That's broken, and it's got all kinds of algae living in it. It's got all kinds of this is just wrong strategies and the sinful things, and we drink from there. And so discipleship is kind of like weaning us away from drinking out of the cisterns and providing a way for us to drink from the river of life, right? Okay, so you asked about books. I have 3 books that I've written. One book is outlines what I've just told you in the first 5 chapters. It's called Broken Chains, Freedom from Unwanted Habits and Addictions. Second book is Top-Down Thinking in a Bottom-Up World. And this teaches us to rely on God's thinking about us rather than our own thinking about us or somebody else's thinking about us. And the subtitle of that is A Christian View of Identity, Purpose, and Behavior. And the third book, which I'm really excited about, is called The River, A Christian Narrative. And it's all about the Bible from the very beginning to the very end. It's about the water of life. It's all one river, and it goes through the whole Bible, and I'm excited about that because we can all drink from it.
Amen. So if Mike said this already, but for those that are in the Fully Alive community, you've read the little Fully Alive book that I put out in there, the little free ebook, which you can easily get. All you have to do is just search ebook, and in the community you can find it. Same theology. We just call those two bottomless pits, intimacy and influence. You're created for intimacy and influence. We tend to settle for approval and control that get more and more toxic over time, that go, that are just, that just hurt us. We do talk about the cisterns, move away from the cisterns, move toward God's living water. And we have found we name the Spirit's provision of that water in that fills those two buckets. As we develop the fruit of the Spirit, we develop godly character, which causes that relational bucket to actually be filled with God's relationship, both vertically with God and horizontally with people. And then the influences, as we develop the spiritual gifts that he's given us, and we understand how we're to use those gifts to engage our personal mission and join in the larger Great Commission, our purpose bucket gets filled back up. So we just provide the tangible ways to develop, and then the tools, the discipleship cohorts to actually develop those, exceptionally, like significantly in our lives. And I found that the more that you're satisfied with what God provides, the less you desire the things that are of the nasty cistern pits. Because like that water, actually, that's pretty amazing. So I love that. So Carol, what are we missing out? So
Mike's you're cueing.
Sorry, Mike, go for it.
I got to add something. See that those two pits are bottomless, right? So what fills up a bottomless pit?
I already know the answer, so I can't cheat.
Only something infinite can fill bottomless pits, and he gives us work to do, a purpose, influencing others and bringing the gospel and into the light for others. And he also gives us these relationships. First relationship is vertical with him, and the second relationship is with others of like mind and like temperament, and people who want to become like Jesus. And we don't know who they are because they keep showing up. You ever notice that?
Absolutely. Life keeps moving.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So much overlap. I didn't even create a question for this, but it feels like before I move to Carol, and Carol, get your input on some of this, because I'd love to hear how all this gets processed through your mind and heart, because it's going to be a little bit different. And I want to make sure that we have every opportunity for female listeners to hear from a lady about this as well. So I'll come back to that. But Mike, there's incredible overlap in our theology. Might we have crossed paths with this somewhere in our past? You want to tell that story?
Well, we met, and Brian was a church planter in Charlotte. Well, not in Charlotte, but a little south of Charlotte. Yeah. And I had my practice going at that time, and we started talking about things and about how we could help people to help people, and especially really good discipled people, and give them an opportunity by training them. So we came up with this idea, but we didn't know how to do it. So I dug around in my notes, and I handed, what was it, 60, 65 pages, something like that, of notes I handed to Brian. And Brian has this wonderful gift of reduction. He can take 65 notes, 65 pages of notes, written small. And
it was very small.
Very small.
I do remember that.
Yeah, because that's the way I write. And he had to sort his way through that, and he came up with InStep, the original InStep. Now we've tweaked it, added to it a little bit over the years. When was this? That's got to be
2007, 6,
something like that.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's changed a bit, but it's basically the same stuff, and it's all good.
Yeah. My background of theology is, redemptive historical theology. Mm. So you brought clarity to that through your notes, and then I brought, clarity to that in InStep. So it's just kind of fun to see God write a story. And here we are almost 20 years later, making this, providing this in a way that could just infinitely scale and create a small army of InStep leaders who are providing this beautiful God-given calling to the people around. So I'm excited. All right, Carol,
Yeah.
in the commercial, back to you.
I
Go.
got one more thing. See, this is for the people who are listening to this podcast or watching it. If you're gifted to help people and no one trains you how to do it, it's like being constipated. Really. And you have no outlet.
Yeah.
It just backs up on you, and there you are. And by taking this kind of training, you can use this in the supermarket. You can use it across the neighbor's fence in the backyard. You can use it in your church. You can use it in your Sunday school or your small group, and you can use it anywhere. You can use it in your family, and you don't even have to tell anybody you're doing it. Yeah. You just are helper. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
So if I learned one thing today, InStep is the X-Lax of personal calling. I'm sorry, Jason, don't edit that out. Don't edit that out. That's priceless. Well, Mike, anytime you have gold like that, please interrupt again, because that's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, Carol, what are these two clunky guys missing when we're coming to just describing just the foundational elements of InStep?
One, I would encourage everybody to go into the InStep ministry space, because there it gives you a general explanation of what InStep is. But then it also shows what each of the sessions are going to focus on. I think when you look at each of those individual sessions, you're going to understand the value of what this is going to equip you with, to be able to meet with that neighbor across the fence or in the store or in your small group. So start with that. The other piece that I think is so critical is when in the training, there's a component that uses triads. So 3 people will be creating a triad, and one will be a helper, one will be the client, the one getting the help, and one will be just an observer that can then, once you run through the triad, the observer can give feedback and so forth as to how the helper did and so forth. It's so practical, because you're coming to this triad as a trainee in the training. You're coming with something that you have in your own hearts. We all have needs. You're bringing something forth that's real. And so you can not only get to practice helping someone else, but you can watch how someone else can use this training to help you in very practical ways. So does that answer the question?
Oh, absolutely. And it makes me want to kind of change the order of how, like, everybody kind of probably knows we have questions that we tee up and everything, but we'll go off script just a little bit. Let's just go ahead and start to talk about, since it's been opened up, just how the training works. So they come into the space, they learn about all the training and stuff. How long is the training? Like, how does it happen? Does this happen over a weekend? Is there a fee associated? What's the breakdown of the hours? Go ahead and unpack that for us, if you don't mind.
Okay, so it is a Friday evening to Saturday afternoon. So Friday evening starts at 6 o'clock. We're blocking off till 9 o'clock, from 6 to 9. It really depends on the conversations. There's going to be breakout rooms. There's going to be, conversation. Mike is not a lecturer that doesn't want to be interrupted. He welcomes the interruptions as he's talking, because that's the point when he can really, find out if he's being clear, and also get the feedback live. And so it's very, very interactive. So blocking it off till 9 o'clock just gives us that room to be able to do that. Every session is different. Then on Saturday, we start at 9. I believe that's right. 9 o'clock, and goes to 3 o'clock with a lunch break for an hour. And again, that 3 o'clock time frame is generous to leave time for interactions, questions, conversation. The triads, Mike tries to keep them so that everybody has a time in each of the triads to rotate from each of the roles. Everybody gets a chance to be a helper, a client, and observer. Well, of course, it's very difficult to box that into a 15-minute time period. So there may be some give and take there. So Friday evening, Saturday till about 3 o'clock. And the cost is $50. And we have 2 sets of dates planned in the future, August 15th and 16th. That's a Friday and Saturday, obviously. And then October 10th and 11th. There is a minimal participant count that we need to have. For the triads to work, we need to have at least 6 people. And we've maxed it out at 15 just because in a Zoom session, you get much beyond that and you start losing people. So 6 to 15 participants is what we're kind of hoping for.
Gotcha. So that's a central time. It's all on Zoom.
Yes.
It's all confidential. When they get in there, they can, in the InStep space, they can actually ask you to register. How does that work? How do they register? A registration button, and then they pay you directly. How does all that work?
So yes, when at this point, we don't have the registration link up there, but we will, watch for that within the next week or so. And so just click on that registration link. It asks several questions, and then you have a choice to pay by check or by Venmo. And all that information for the payment options are there. And I think that's all the logistics, the registration form, and then the payment. Very cool.
Very cool. So Friday night, Saturday, I'm assuming there's breaks for lunch and things like that. It's all on Zoom. There's a measure of engagement, conversation around the lessons that Mike will provide. But then you're breaking out and putting into practice pretty regularly all the things that you're learning. So it's a highly engaged. I was actually a part of probably 5 or 6 different InStep trainings live. Zoom wasn't created when I was still doing this, but the time goes by so fast. And you're so engaged in it. It's really amazing. Mike, you had put your hand up to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about fear, Brian. People that are being trained to help other people often have a fear of messing something up, doing something wrong, not being able to provide what the other person needs, and those kinds of fears. The InStep training is designed to alleviate most of that. But we start off by teaching about how to hear from God and let God direct you when you're with people. It's called the chair.
Yeah.
And and then the next part is 2 parts later, but it's how to refer. So we teach you what to look for when you're over your head, and how to refer to a professional, and how to continue to walk even though you have referred them to a professional, how to continue to walk with them. So I bring this up because fear is something that keeps people from doing these things. And and I don't want to see that happen.
Great. All right, well, let's turn the corner and just ask this, like, stories motivate, like powerful stories help people overcome those kind of fears if they see that it's accessible. So obviously we don't want to break confidentiality. Confidentiality is a high part of providing this kind of care, but is there a story that you can share in generic terms, either from a caregiver or someone, just a generic story of someone who's received care that can inspire us to pursue this type of training? Either one of you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this is a personal story. I have attended multiple InStep trainings. I kind of just tag along. My husband says, "Why do you want to go again? You've already heard this a million times." And I'm like, I get something out of it every single time. So it's something I really enjoy doing. Just gains more confidence each time. So I'm going to share a story about when I was in one of the triads, and I was the one that presented a need. So in the triads, as I said earlier, one person serves as the one that's coming alongside and helping. One is the client or the one being helped. And then there's a third person that's just observing for feedback later.
Mm-hmm.
So the questions are coming at me from the individual who's helping. And it was so evident that the Holy Spirit was giving them the right words and the guidance to say, to open up something in my heart that I was not even aware was there.
Wow.
I'm sitting there and she's asking these questions, and I'm watching this conversation go from a point that I thought it began at totally taking a different direction. And I can feel the tears start coming. And I'm like, oh God, you're doing something here. And it was just amazing to watch how in the simplicity of that conversation, God put me in a position where I was ready to hear something that he needed to tell me. It was a situation where I was wearing a burden that I was not asking Jesus to come and join, put the yoke on with me. I was doing it on my own. I was not relying on him. I was also not focusing on what really mattered in the situation. And it was the other person's heart that I was becoming burdened about. And that's what really mattered. And God just brought me to a place of surrender. And it wasn't even the presenting problem. So it was just the questions that client or that helper brought forth out of the training. Just God used it to pierce my heart and get me his perspective.
Wow. Which just really goes back, like Mike, you talked about that first exercise is how do you learn to hear from God? How do you sit in the chair and listen, not just for yourself, but for others, and to be more spirit led. And I know you guys pray like crazy over these trainings. You don't want just to dump a bunch of information. You want people to experience it in their guts, so that when they carry this out, they're carrying a God thing. Not an InStep thing.
Absolutely.
I just love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mike, any other story to share, or do you want to talk about how this?
I have a great story to share.
Good.
So a while back, I don't know. Time is funny to me. It's like it all runs together. But it was a while ago. I did an InStep in a church, and one of the InStep helpers came across a person, and that person then got the help that they needed, and they asked the InStep person, "How did you get this? How did you learn how to do this?" And so they told him about the InStep program, but there was no InStep programs going on, and so about 3 months later or 4 months later, something like that, this other church in the same town wanted to have an InStep teaching. So I went over there and taught that InStep, and that guy showed up and got trained, and now he's running that InStep program in that church.
Boom.
Good networking. God networking.
And I mean, that's how I see this working, because in Fully Alive, people can come from all over the world. They can come to this training. They could take it to their church. That church could help, influence others. But inside of the InStep space in the Fully Alive network, all kinds of community can develop between these helpers and leaders of helpers, to where more and more trainers can ultimately build. I mean, the need, what is it that Jesus says in Luke 10:2? The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And that's primarily for evangelism, but the hurting are plentiful and the caregivers are few. And we want just to see this just blow up and go crazy like that. So I'm grateful for that. How, Mike or Carol, how do you see this as you've worked with churches like that? How do you see this best being integrated into a church? Does it take a key person? Is it just book a training and we'll do it specifically with your church? How does that work?
There's some steps that I always recommend to churches when I do an InStep there live. And I'm hoping that I can do that with this. So it's my vision for churches and how to use InStep. The first thing that has to happen is you got to find people who are gifted and gifted by the Holy Spirit and God to use that gift toward helping people who are hurting. They have to be compassionate. They have to be empathic. They have to be they have to have certain qualities to them. A little bit of courage too. Doesn't hurt. So you want to identify some people that could do this ministry in your body or your organization. The second thing is then you want to provide the InStep training for them so that they can be trained. And the third thing is you want to inform the organization or church or whatever that this is available, that we have people who can walk with you who are trained to help you. And so they know about it, right? If they don't know about it, then you can have all the training you want and nobody's going to ask for the help. So, right. All right. Then the fourth thing is you got to have an administrator of the ministry in the church or in the organization, right? Somebody who's a funnel where the phone call comes into the office and says, so-and-so's having a problem with their child or they're addicted or something or whatever. And when that phone call comes in, then that can be shoveled over to the administrator who knows the trained people and maybe knows the person who's asking for the help and can pair them up.
Nice.
Right. And so when you build that kind of a system in it, you're going to use your people rather than just have them be trained and still sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah. Good. And as I mentioned on the outset, you could also strategically work to try to get those people with those gifts trained, and one in every small group, one or two in every small group in some way. There's so many ways I've thought about how to fully integrate this into a church setting. That's so powerful.
Every small group should have somebody trained to do this. Yeah. Because if you don't, you'll end up marginalizing the person who's hurting. They'll just get shoved off to the side because nobody knows how to help them. Nobody knows what to say, and that's sad.
I would say I'll probably go a little further and say it's disobedient on the leader's position, because one, we haven't tapped all the resources that God has put into that group to provide that care, and two, that's a big reason why we're there to begin with, is for those people. So boy, I sure hope that we can unleash this capacity in people's lives. By the way, people can actually take the GPS assessment, giftspassionstory.com. It's an absolutely free assessment. And people can let you know, do I have the gifts of mercy, compassion? What else did you say? Because
discernment and
discernment,
and a little bit of wisdom doesn't hurt, but it's not necessary.
Yeah. And if you've got, so if you look, those are the spiritual gifts. But if you look toward the passion, that's where we use the APEST, apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, teacher. The shepherd in particular would be the ones that would be high candidates for this type of training. And then what I love, again, I'll just mention this one more time, just the ability to be for those church leaders or the administrative people or the people who are trying to carry this out. You have other people doing this, and you have experts. in that fully alive space, the InStep spot in the fully alive space, to have your back. You go on there and you just post in the feed, hey, I've got a question, blah, 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 blah. And then you have people that are passionate about this and using it around the world to provide that support. That is so invaluable. It's like you get the training, but then you get the support in the community as you're going down. So real quick question, we're running out of time fast. So let's say we've talked about the church as a context, neighborhood, business. Are there any other contexts where we could easily translate how this would be integrated? I know that's kind of coming off the top.
I think that God provides those if we are careful to stay tuned into God throughout each of our days. God can create those situations that we find we just stumble into, and it's like, oh, I should ask this person, this question that I got from the training. I think they're at a point where they might need someone to just get them to do some introspection and thoughts. And even if they're not a believer, it can be an open door to leading them to Christ. I think like Mike said, it can be something you use when you're standing in line, when you're, talking to your neighbor. It's all about building those relationships.
For sure.
I think Brian, that when you get trained and you are chosen by the Lord to do this kind of work, right? You know this, you become a magnet.
Yes.
And all the hurting people, many hurting people, and many people who are in distress and are dejected come to you, and they just show up. All you really have to have is the training and have your eyes open to see when they come.
Absolutely.
Right.
I love it. I was also thinking, I'll just mention this quickly and then we'll move on. I was trying to think, marketplace leaders, business owners are recognizing the need for marketplace chaplains because there's a need to want to provide services to your employee base who are in that 60-something%, right? And so the more they provide those services strategically and intentionally, the happier and the healthier their employees are, and the happier and healthier the employers are. That saves, that saves a lot. One, it just demonstrates you're investing and care about your people, which we should, and that's our primary stewardship opportunity as Christian business owners and leaders. But it also just adds to bottom line revenue because you don't have the turnover. So there's so many advantages to things like this. All right. So the training event, one more time, August, what and what, and October, what and what?
So August 15th and 16th and October 10th through 11th, Friday evening, Saturday to around 3:00 in the afternoon. A registration link, and click there to start. Or if you have questions, you can message me in the chat, or, just fill out the registration form. And I will stay on top of that and get back to people as quick as I can. We're looking forward to making this happen. I just keep thinking about what Mike started with and what the heart of Fully Alive ministry is, that, Fully Alive ministry is making disciples. Once you're a disciple, there's work to be done. I think about what Paul said in Ephesians, there are works of service to do. This might be just a work of service that some of, your listeners need to get trained to get out there and do for the kingdom.
I love it. All right. With 30 seconds to spare, what have I not asked that I need to about InStep or any of this?
I can't think of anything. I think we're good.
Mike's never speechless. Come on, what's in there? I just think, Carol and I have tried. We got this to be very affordable.
Oh yeah,
and to take a Friday night and a Saturday for that little bit of money is if you have any inclination at all that this might be something you should do, you should jump on this in a heartbeat, because you're not going to find this kind of quality. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying this is a quality operation here. We don't do anything halfway, and to take advantage of that for the kingdom and for people who are hurting.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. It's not about the money. Not about the money. It's about the impact. And that does provide a measure of accountability. Well, Mike and Carol, thank you so much for your time to have this conversation today. I really hope our listeners can take advantage of that training in August. And if not in October, just get in there to the Fully Alive app, search for InStep, and just join it. You can join it for free. Yep. And you join it with by one click. It's there. It's available for you to find, and then just communicate with Carol or Mike inside, and Carol will get back to you.
Will do.
It's all right there. Again, thanks so much, and let's go, God. Let's build an army of spiritual and emotional caregivers around the world.
Amen.
Amen.